Hello, everybody. Welcome. Give it a second here for people to join, but I'll just do a quick little intro. So for those that I have not met before, my name is Lori, and I am a business success coach who helps aspiring digital nomads and entrepreneurs to build profitable remote-based businesses that give them the freedom of time and location that they're looking for and allow them to hit their financial goals in their business within the next 12 months. Today, I am joined by Julie Ciardi, a former Fortune 500 marketing vice president, and she made the quantum leap to freedom after 2 decades in corporate. Wow. And she is on a mission to help thousands of women create the results that they want and to live their life by design. And to do this, we all must ignite our minds. Julie, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
So happy to be here. Some of my favorite topics and my favorite kind of people that are looking for that kind of freedom. So this is an awesome place to be.
Awesome. Well, let's start off by, giving just a little background, like very impressive, obviously, like Fortune 500 vice president, and you were able to make that transition, and after, 2 decades, that's obviously you were pretty, solidified in that career. So what does that look like? Tell us your story.
Yeah, it's super boring in the beginning. It was kind of following the very type A overachiever, kind of do what you're supposed to do, go to, I'm not a spring chicken, I'm 47. And back when I was graduating from college, there was no online anything. I mean, email was just starting, for crying out loud. And it was the typical, you go to college and then from college, you get a great job, air quoting on that, great job. And, and then you get the master's degree and continue to rise up the corporate ladder. Like that was the path. It was, if you weren't going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a teacher, or in law enforcement, I mean, like that's kind of what you did. You got with a great company and started to climb the ladder. And that is what I did. But I got to tell you, Lori, that from the very, very beginning, even in my early 20s, I knew I wasn't in the right place. So my overachiever, got to achieve, want a certain lifestyle, that was in the driver's seat, but my soul knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be. So it wasn't like I went through 20 years kind of like not even thinking about it. It was always there. I feel like my soul was kind of like my kids, especially when they were younger, pulling at my shirt, like, hello, like,
I love it.
me, like, you're not supposed to be here. So this inner voice was always telling me. It even sometimes got so loud that it came from other people. Like I'll never forget, I was like 23, 24, and I'm sitting in a dark cubicle, right? Like no windows anywhere, right? In this dark cubicle and doing my work. And this assistant came by and she like knocked on my cubicle and I'm like, oh, hey. And she's like, why are you here? And I can remember being like, what do you mean? Why am I here? I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Am I supposed to be somewhere else? Like I was young, I was 20. She goes, I just feel like you're meant to be somewhere else, not in this cube. You talk about the universe, God coming down and like, giving you a message, right? And I'm like, okay, like it was like, but I still remember that so clearly. Like we get these nudges, right? We get these things that happen. And for 2 decades, I had that. But as you and I were kind of talking in the green room, I didn't know there was another possibility, to be honest with you. I didn't know anyone else that was an entrepreneur. I knew of business owners that owned like mechanic shops or a hair salon or a boutique or a restaurant. Like to me, that was an entrepreneur back then. I didn't know there was another possibility. And quite frankly, there really wasn't, back in like the early 2000s, right? And then all of a sudden, this shift happened, but I still didn't see it because I wasn't in that world. So I still saw, the corporate world. That's all I could see. That was the reality that was in front of me. But that nudge kept happening. And finally, it was so great because, like I said, I believe the universe gives you all these signs and sometimes kicks you in the behind. The company that I was with, you kind of talk about being a digital nomad. The company that I was with was like the leader in the market at that. I was living the laptop life in 2002. I barely went
before it even existed, really.
I was living the laptop life before it existed. And this is really important for everyone to hear because this is really, really important. I worked remotely. I would travel when I needed to travel, right? And even becoming a vice president, I still mostly worked from home. Okay. They were very like pioneers in this. Okay. But I wasn't happy. So the being remote, the having, like, I still didn't have a ton of
Mhm.
freedom though, because I still was like booked like every day, like, with my calendar being booked, but I had a lot of flexibility. I mean, I didn't miss one play of my kids at school. I was a soccer coach. Like, I didn't miss stuff because I had that laptop life in a lot of
Right.
ways, but I wasn't happy. I didn't feel like I was living my purpose. So a big point that I want your listeners to kind of really, or viewers to kind of take hold of,
Mhm.
is even when you go to build your own thing, make sure you are in alignment with it. Be sure that it's something that lights you up. Otherwise, you're just creating another job. And that's not what you want to do, right? So I was living that lifestyle, but I didn't love what I was doing. And wouldn't you know, universe comes along and is like, look, enough is enough already. And so the entire company, which is a huge company, it's a Fortune 500 company, Fortune 100, Fortune 50 probably. They decided to change their entire workforce structure to we were all going back into offices. Now,
Uh,
this happened like, a few years before the pandemic, and they're
okay.
probably evaluating that whole thing now because they haven't been a
Right.
leader in this space, right? But I believe it happened for me, to be honest with you. Like, I believe it was the universe and it was happening for me because it was going to mean that I had to travel 2.5 hours each way to that
Oh,
office.
oh no.
That was a hard no. And it was the final push that got me out and really doing, what I'm doing now, but it wasn't what I'm doing now initially. I still didn't know that this was possible to have this online kind of business. So guess what I did, Laura? I
Mhm.
opened a brick and mortar boutique. It was a great stepping stone
Oh,
to becoming I got that business up and running to the six figures in 4 months of opening the doors. It was very
wow, that's
successful,
impressive.
very tiny profit margin. Very tiny profit margin, right? Because it's a brick and mortar.
Mhm.
You got employees,
There's
you're
so many
buying all this.
expenses.
Oh my God, right?
Mhm.
But it opened because I had to grow as a owner of this company. It exposed me to all these other entrepreneurs that were doing other things. And that's why it's so awesome that you've got the audience that you have and you guys are all doing the right thing, right? Which is listen to others that have gone before you so that you can learn, you can
Absolutely.
take the path that's already gotten paved. And so very, very quickly, I started to learn from others that had what I really wanted. And I knew that I really wanted to help women have choice. And for women, I usually mostly just work with women as well.
Mhm.
And it's just this like wanting to help them become whatever it is that they want, not to live this life of should. So we talk about living a life by
Mhm.
design and not by default. And so many women get
Absolutely.
stuck in the trap of what they should do and how they should be acting and what they should be, doing with whether it's with their families or their careers and all of that. And so really over the last 4 years, the journey became me selling the boutique and really going full force into, I like to call myself a becoming mentor. I help women become what it is they really are meant to be
I
doing and
love that.
align with that purpose. And it just feels so good. And it's funny, it really was never about the money, initially in any way. It was like I wasn't happy. And I wanted to become
Mhm.
happy and feel like I was living my purpose. And that was the big driver for me when I was making that shift.
And that is so, so important. And, everything you said, actually, it's so funny because I was literally just messaging back and forth with one of my clients today. And she's, at kind of this point where she did exactly, what you said. Like she started out, but she isn't doing something that lights her up necessarily. So she's going through this internal struggle of like, do I continue on this path of pursuing this business that I've already started building, or do I shift and go into doing something that I truly, truly love? Like it doesn't light her up. And I literally use those exact terms in the message that I was sending her just before we wrapped up. So like, ironic timing. So I hope she's watching or at least watches the
Yes.
replay of
Follow
this.
your intuition. It's your soul. Like your soul knows. You've got this inner voice that knows. And we like poo poo it and we're like, no. And we go like this. And meanwhile, it's like if we followed that inner voice, man, wow, we'd all be living really amazing lives, but we go back into the lane of, no, I'm supposed to go do this. And well, I've already created this business. So like, what are people going to think? I was talking to my husband about this last night because I said, he himself is now retired. He was a police officer for 23 years. He's retired. He's kind of still figuring out what he wants to do next, right? He's, 48 and has a lot of that he wants to do. And he's like, well, if I try this, but then that doesn't really align with me and I want to do this, like he was worried like what people were going to think that he like bounced from thing to thing. And I said, they're only going to think that if you think that. Right. I said, when I sold the first business, I guarantee you there were people going, well, I thought that's why she left the job. Like she wanted to start this
Right.
selling it. Is she crazy? I didn't care what other people thought. And in fact, what was so interesting is people followed my lead and how I talked about it. And they were like, oh, I get it. Right. Like that wasn't the thing. It was a stepping stone. It was a part of the journey to this. And just like your client, like she wouldn't know that this was the thing that lit her up if she didn't first do this. It's just part of the process. There's no mistake. It's not a problem. It's just now this shift. And then you decide how you're going to tell the story. Right. That's
absolutely. I love it. Love it. Just, yeah. And like you said, just following your intuition really and doing things that are in alignment with you, because you should get to do things that you absolutely love. And the money comes, right. And I know that that's something that people, in our audience, definitely, they come to me and they want to make six figures, they want to hit those financial goals. So we can definitely talk about that, right?
Oh, yeah. You and I were talking in the green room, like my heart, like I don't think, and this is, I really want everyone that's listening to this to like hug yourself, like seriously, like be so proud of yourself. This is the hardest part. When you're starting something new and you're trying to get it to grow, we put artificial timelines on it. And it's those timelines that are actually causing us the most grief than anything. Like don't put a time frame on it. Just keep persistently moving forward towards what you want. It's the time frames like, well, I haven't hit it yet. And that's what's causing a lot of the distress. But just hug yourself and high five yourself, whatever you want to do, be proud of yourself because this is the hardest part of this. Once you start making money in your business, once you start seeing it grow, once you hit that, the six figures, right? It's just like that stepping stone. You now have the evidence. Before you get there, you're trying to create without evidence. And I think that is one of the hardest, most challenging times. And so stay the course, because if you stay persistently with it, people give up, right? They give up, they have these artificial timelines, but just know that you're in the hardest part. And personally, I think it's easier to go from 6 to multiple 6, from multiple 6 to 7, from 7 into the multiple 7s. That is easier than your first 6 figures or whatever that number is, because you've never done it before.
Exactly. And you feel like yeah. And the thing is, like, that I find too with my clients too, coming to me and it's like, I feel like a fraud, or I feel, like I can't do this. And I've never done this. Absolutely. And once you're just in it, you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. This isn't so hard. I can do this, but it's getting past that point, where so many people fall off.
It's the point. That's the whole crazy part of it, right? Like, so if money and the money coming in and clients and all those things, they are in direct correlation to your own personal growth, period. Right. So we talk about this having a to-be list versus a to-do list. I fell into the trap too. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Right. Like, so I was going to create this, online business. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And we go there first. Like, that's really not the place to go first. It's who do I need to be? So if I want to be the 6-figure coach or the 6-figure consultant or whatever anyone in the audience is wanting to become, spend time with, well, what is she like? What are her characteristics? What are her qualities? How does she show up? What kind of how would she feel? Just even start with, how would you feel? How would you feel already being there? right? This is
Yeah,
not woo woo. This
that's
is real, because guess what? You can't get there until you start thinking like her. You just can't. And when you start thinking like her, your inner voice that we were just talking about will tell you intuitively what you need to do.
mhm.
Right. And listen to it. Like I listened to mine
Yeah.
constantly, especially in the beginning. Like it was like, get a coach that can tell you. Like I started when I was going to do the boutique. This is kind of funny. Your audience will laugh at this. I never even had worked in a boutique and checked somebody out as an employee. Like I'd never, I don't even like shopping. Like it's so funny, right? But I started this boutique. And so what is the first thing that I did? My voice in my head said, like, go get a boutique coach. There's got to be a coach out there who teaches people how to do this. And of course there was. And she was
Mhm.
so important for me. Like I wouldn't have been able to do it without her support and her help, because she paved the way ahead of me. Right. So just listen to that voice,
Absolutely.
but you're not going to know until you're here. And this is what I find people like, well, I'm going to hire my first hire, or I'm going to hire a coach, or I'm going to make this investment or that investment once I'm making this money. But it doesn't work like
Yeah, I
that.
hear that one all the time, and that's not
It
how it
doesn't work like
works.
you got to make those decisions as her now. That's how you get there. I've made scary investments and scary decisions to then
Mhm.
get to that next step, but you've got to make it from that level. And so I call it the to be list. Like, who do you need to become to
Absolutely.
have a six-figure business? That's the big question. And a lot of times we don't take the time to really understand that.
No, we don't. You're so right. And what you said there, like I just laughed because I hear that as a business coach, and I'm sure you do, too, all the time as a coach, and a mentor, is people saying, "Oh, well, I want to work with you, but I can't afford it yet." Well, then you're not ready. Like you're not ready to work with me if you don't feel like you can afford it, because when you know that you're ready for that next step in your life, your career, your business, doesn't matter, you're going to make it happen no matter what, because you know that is what you need. I remember, I honestly, like with my first well, I guess she wasn't my first, but one of my first coaches, um I took money from my 401k, and it was
Totally.
freaking terrifying. It was terrifying because I'm
Was
like,
it
what
worth
if I
it?
don't make this back? But absolutely,
Was it
I
worth it?
would not
Totally.
be here if it wasn't for her. I would not be.
Totally worth it. And you know what's so fascinating, Lori, is I originally got this advice back in my career in corporate. I was probably, this is a mindset thing that I think it's been ingrained in us since, like, it's a belief that we've had forever, right?
Hmm.
Not just as entrepreneurs, but like, let's say in corporate, I was a manager. I wanted to become a director, which is the first level executive. I wanted to become a
Hmm.
director. And I was asking the vice president I worked for, what do I need to do? Right. Because we go to the do. What do I need to do to become, right, the director? And he said, start being the director now. And I'm like, what do you
Hmm.
mean? He's like, start leading your team, start taking on projects, take initiative here, act like that director already. You'll get noticed. But what happens is we're like, well, I'm not going to put the time and the energy, I'm not going to do these things until I'm being paid for it, right? Or I'm not
Yeah.
going to invest in this until I'm making the money. But it doesn't work like that. Successful people know that they
No.
have to start being that first and trust the rest will come. Right. I mean, that's
Yes.
so powerful. And most of the investments that I made in, coaches and in support and in learning were before I ever was making the money in the business. I started working with the boutique coach
Hmm.
in like February of the year that I eventually opened the boutique. I didn't open the boutique until November. So in the business, but I wouldn't get here if I didn't, right? If I didn't,
Absolutely.
that's that. So it's all part of it. It's like this cart before the horse kind of thing, and it's like we've gotten it a bit backwards.
Yeah, and it is, and it's terrifying. So, for those of you listening, we understand that, and we know it's scary. But the thing is if you want to be, like you said, you have to act as though you already are. And if you aren't doing that, then sorry, thought I had
Yeah,
the ringer shut off. But if you can't visualize what that's going to be like, you're going to continue to block yourself from ever getting there.
totally.
So yeah. Oh, yes. this has been such a amazing, and I think everyone else. Oh, and yes, one of our viewers just popped in with a comment. Randy, investing in yourself is key, and yes, it absolutely is, Randy. And it's so important to be able to see that, because when you can't see that, you are holding yourself back.
Well, and that's new for most people. Like, let's like
Mhm.
really call it what it is. Like, I think that the more you've been in this space, the more you just know, well, that's part of my budget moving forward. Like, I'm always going to be having someone helping me, and whether you're investing in
Mhm.
other team members or you're investing in personal development and coaching and all that stuff. Like, I'll never
Mhm.
not do that. But when you're first doing it, it can be weird because you didn't
Yeah.
do it in your corporate job. If anything, maybe your corporate job maybe gave you a mentor, but only the top of the top seemed to get the mentors, right? And like
Mhm.
it was,
Mhm.
it is a weird thing initially. And your spouse, your partners, friends, family, they're not going to understand it. So a big piece of advice
Mm-mm.
on this, don't ask them because they don't have what you want. They don't have what you want unless your dad, your mom, your friend,
Mhm.
your cousin, your husband, your wife has what you want. Do not ask them if you should do it.
No,
Why would you
because
do
they'll
that?
tell you no. Yeah.
Because they don't get it. And they want to keep you
Exactly.
safe and they want to feel safe and they don't get it. So I always say, like, make sure that you're asking if you want to know if you should invest in a coach like Lori or in some kind of a program or whatever. Ask a coach that has, like, if you, let's say you want to be a coach and you want to have your own coaching business, like, make sure that you're getting the advice from someone in that industry and that should I do this?
Yeah.
Do you think that I should invest? They'd go, heck yes, right? So make sure that
Absolutely.
you know who your circle of advisors are. Make sure that inner first and foremost, your intuition is already
Mhm.
telling you what to do. Trust it, but then bring in some, some advisors, asking questions of people that have what you want, and really guard your mind to the people that mean well, but it's their opinion and their advice is coming from opinions from places that you don't want to be. Like, they don't have what you want.
Exactly. Exactly. I think I don't remember who necessarily said this. There's some quote about like surrounding yourself with like the five people that are the types of people that you want to be like. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to start surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs that know what you're going through, really.
100%.
And you can love your family and your friends all you want, but they don't
Exactly.
understand. Like, yeah, I
They
love
don't
you,
have a
mama,
seat.
but yes.
Yeah, they don't have a seat as my board of directors for my business. They just don't. Like,
Nope.
be
Nope.
selective about that. Who has a seat at the table as your board of directors for your business? Like, that's important. Really, like, think about that too.
Yeah. Um, well, for all of those watching, if you have not gotten something from this, then you need to go back and listen to it again, because this has been a fabulous conversation. And I think one that unfortunately, a lot of people haven't had with themselves, and they really they need to have those conversations. So,
Yeah.
Julie, this has been absolutely fantastic. And I know that there's going to be people that want to keep up with you. So, how do they keep up with you, and what I know you mentioned an article too that you had that
Yeah.
you'd like to share with people. How do they get that from you?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely connect on Instagram. I love connecting and chatting with people there. We have all, different resources there. The podcast, Ignite Her Mind, this is where we talk about all this stuff. It's so powerful. But there's an article called Responsibility. It was written by one of my mentors, Bob Proctor. It is so powerful. It really helps you to understand really how to see your role in your own business, quite frankly, but also in your life, right? And in your life. So if
Hmm.
you're interested and you want a copy of that, you can send us a text message. It's for US and Canada only. So I'll give you another option if you're not in the US or Canada. But you just text us at 617-752-8155 and just say responsibility, and we'll send you the article. The other thing is, if you're not in the US and Canada and you don't want to text, just shoot me a DM, shoot me a message on Instagram, and we'll send it to you that way as well. But it's just we have our clients like read it for 30 days, like every day for 30 days, and they see drastic changes in how they show up, the actions they take, and who they're being. It's really powerful. Ooh, I'm not sure. Is Lori's there? I think the internet's been acting funny. It's snowing where she is. While we're waiting for Lori to kind of come back on, just one other quick thing that you may have heard a ton, and yet you tried it, and you're like, I don't think this works. Is the book Think and Grow Rich? I don't know if you guys, like every entrepreneur everywhere is like, you got to read it, da da da. And I remember getting it, reading it, and being like, this is boring. And I put it up on a shelf, and it wasn't until I understood that you have to study it, like literally study it. Now my book is like falling apart, and it's like my manual of everything. Like I have notes written, like this is how you do Think and Grow Rich. This is how you do it. You literally are underlining, reading, studying, repeating. It really is an incredible manual for not just making money, but for success and having a really successful life. So it's really, really powerful. I'm not sure if we're done. So I am going to say so long, and I hope that you guys have an incredible rest of your day.
Okay, well, apparently I came back on live. So if you're still there, everybody, my apologies. My internet dropped, and it looks like we lost Julie. So I think we were pretty much finished up. So hopefully you got the information that you needed from. It is not the greatest weather, so I'm guessing that is why my internet dropped. So apologies again, and have a wonderful day. And again, if you did not catch where to connect with Julie, you can catch up with her on Instagram. Yeah. Oop, there we go. Julie Ciardi, and you can want to get any of that information from and send her a DM. She did list a number, and I don't know if that came through clearly. So my apologies if you did not get that, and sorry for the technical difficulties. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for tuning in.